All right, welcome back. Like Tyler pointed out, it's a pleasure to have the voice of the Cougars with us, Greg Wrubel up here. Traveled all the way up to be on our show. We thank you for that. Really happy to have you. We want to talk a lot about. Excuse me, I'm stumbling.
Guys, first of all, you don't know how excited I am. This could be my big break. This could be it. This could get me over the top on this thing. You guys know how big you are, especially in Salt Lake. This is huge for me. I'm telling you.
Listen to this guy.
That. We appreciate that.
Look behind us. We had Mike Tyson say that once on the show too. I don't know if you saw. Oh, he's back here, I'm told.
I like the collection. Would you guys mind if before the end of the day I get to tear down Jerry McNamara? Can I take him off?
Oh, you
definitely.
You can take
Put him in a ball and chuck him away.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, throw him away.
Go ahead.
I got a bad experience with him. I gotta get rid of that.
Was it 42 points? I think I remember
43.
that. Oh,
yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah.
Well, we lost Kobe just right now. All right, why don't we get right into it, Tyler?
Well, talking about basketball, Dave Rose takes over for Steve Cleveland. Steve Cleveland leaves, took over a team who was 9-21 last year, leads them to a 20-win season. I mean, in my opinion, I think Dave Rose has BYU turned around, started totally new guys here, Playstead coming on, Brodus. Do you think Dave Rose is pushing BYU basketball to one of those years when they used to dominate?
Absolutely. The great thing about Dave Rose is the 20-win season was good, but for Dave, not good enough.
Right.
And so people will say the turnaround from 9-21 more than people expected, but for Dave it was just what he expected, if not a little more. He could have used. Getting to the postseason is a good benchmark for this basketball team. Contending for a conference title, these are all great things, but Dave will never be satisfied. He's played at the highest echelons. He's played for a national championship, and he has no reason to believe BYU can't, given time and the right personnel. And so I think the best thing about him is the lack of satisfaction at a great season by any measure.
Well, yeah, I mean, very young. I mean, they lose Rickner. I think that's really the only major player they lose this year.
Good young, a good young freshman out of Lone Peak High School, Jackson Emery, does go on a mission. Just got his mission called off to Mexico here in a little while. So you lose Richner and Jackson Emery, but you bring in some good people. So the losses aren't tremendous. But Brock's leadership role was very much underrated before the season. By the end of the season, everyone knew what they had in Brock Richner. But the kid is a leader, and they'll miss that certainly. But a nice infusion of talent for this team too.
Well, keeping the focus on basketball, watching Playstead play this year as a freshman, really a great player. How much do you think he's going to develop in the next years? Do you think he's got any chance? You've watched a good big guy in
Well, I say, I say his potential is as big as his home state of Texas. He can be just that good. Has to develop a few more moves down low, has to develop a nice mid-range shot. In fact, early in the year last year, he actually showed a nice baseline 12-footer. Didn't go to it a lot during the season. I want to see that part develop, and I think because they'll bring in a kid like Vuk Ivanovic, a nice polished big man around the rim, Trent will have to back out a bit and create more mismatches at the 4 spot.
I have to ask you a question about Playstead. I think it was just a BYU taping. I can't remember what game it was.
Yeah, it's kind of mythical, legendary now. It's the game at Fort Collins at Colorado State.
Yes.
It was actually CSU's coach's tape from a very, very high angle. And I'll always say the tape will never do the dunk justice. But what happened that night, I've been calling games 10, 11 years for basketball, and Mark Durant's been around a long time as well, watching as a fan and as a broadcaster. What we saw that night in Fort Collins, we'd never seen a BYU player do before. It was that good. It was that athletic. It was that amazing. Yet the video never really gave you the impression that what he did was that phenomenal. But you had to be there. And if you can kind of gauge by an audience reaction how good it was, the collective gasp from the crowd told us all we needed to know about that. And everyone who was there will say it's one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, I saw that fuzzy tape, as they zoomed in. You really couldn't see very well.
But he's 6'11", running full speed, reaching behind as far back as he did to throw, and then have enough coordination to chuck it down. Big guys that size just don't have that kind of ability, and Trent does.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch him the rest of the year.
Should be really fun.
Let's go ahead and shift to football. Again, another era starting, Bronco Mendenhall era. Took him to a bowl game. A lot of the same thing, as Dave Rose took him to the bowl game. Exceeded expectations, in my opinion. I wasn't expecting bowl games because we were so off the year before. With the 3-4 change this year, is BYU going to continue to progress like they did last year?
Yeah, I think so, and I think what helps BYU more this year than a change on defensive philosophy is, or not in philosophy, but in tactical approach, is the fact that its offense comes back almost entirely intact, and then adds a Fuiva Kapuna, and then adds a McKay Jacobson. It should be the best offense in the Mountain West. The question is, will the games all be 45-38? The defense has to have a lot of people learn a lot very quickly, including new secondary members, a depth at the defensive line, And so I think it's going to be a team in which the offense carries the day, defense has to catch up, but BYU should be contending for a conference crown. And I think what Bronco would like to improve upon, contrasting last year, is the finish of the season. Too many years now, I think 8 in the last 9, BYU's ended with back-to-back losses.
Right.
That has to turn around. Of course, a bowl win would erase that, and that has to happen too.
Yeah, you talked about the secondary. Secondary, in my opinion, was really subpar last year. Really,
And that's being generous.
You know, I mean,
and no fault. I mean, they lost a lot of personnel that put a lot of typically second and third stringers in starting roles, and they played their guts out. They learned their positions. They did their assignments. They just weren't up to the task many weeks.
How many of those guys are coming back? I mean, are those guys that stepped in last year, are those guys coming back, and are you expecting more from them this year?
Yeah, I mean, the Cale Buchanans and Cole Miahiras and Justin Robinsons, those guys are back, and the experience they had last year will help them, but they're not going to be alone anymore.
Right.
They'll have guys coming in, JC and freshmen, that can add to the depth, and it can only assist.
Well, I got to ask a question here. Of course, we're from Heber. I talked to you a little bit before the show. We have a Wasatch alumni, quarterback. We loved watching him up here. Just made the BYU football team, actually. Not expecting him to get any playing time this year, but you never know with the BYU.
But he was playing in spring.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where a guy like McEwen can walk in, get himself some experience, get the coaches to know his name, and be able to make an impact on things like scout team in the summer.
Yeah, well, and he's a great quarterback. I know he went down and worked out with him, and before his mission, ended up going on a mission, and everyone kind of forgot about him. Of course, they got James Lark coming in. Where do you think it's going to go after this year? Who's the quarterback that's going to
Well, if it goes according to plan, and there's a plan for this thing, if it goes according to plan, BYU should be set at quarterback through about, I think, 2011. Here's the way it's supposed to work out. And follow me now on this thing, but there's a plan. John Beck starts this year, of course, his senior season. This year, you'll see Jacob Bauer and Max Hall battle to back up John Beck with James Lark redshirting. Lark goes on a mission. Okay. The next year Beck leaves. Now it's Bauer and Hall battling for the starting spot. One of those two guys wins it and plays 2 or 3 years depending on the situation. Lark gets back off his mission, backs up one of those two guys, then he takes over for about 3 years. And so if it all plans out well, they're fine for the for the next number of years between Beck and Lark and Bauer and Hall. That combination of core players. You can throw a Doman in there too, but I would say those are your 4 main guys that should carry BYU for a long time. Again, it's what you hope.
Yeah. Well, talking about quarterbacks, Riley Nelson this year was a great quarterback for Logan. How come BYU didn't make more of a push for him? Because they already signed
Because
Lark?
I think they had guys like James Lark and Max Hall and Jacob Bauer. If they were down 1 or 2 of those guys, you have to look at Riley. You have to look at him.
Yeah, well, looking at the comparison, we went down to the championship football game, watching those two. The comparison, it was unreal. Riley Nelson was just an amazing quarterback, reads the defense, knows
He's
where
a
he's
winner.
going with
He's a
everything.
winner.
Yeah, he's a winner.
Certain guys just make plays regardless of their size dimensions. I mean, no one was arguing about Ty Detmer's size at BYU, but you can make a lot of comparisons between those two guys. I think guys would think the game a lot the same way. I think Riley's going to be a great find for Utah State. They'll love him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, why don't we shift gears a little bit, Tyler? We want to do a little something. You have a random trivia question every morning on your 90-second sports ticker, right?
That I'm subject to. I don't get to put it out there. I have to answer it. It's always tough. The pressure is immense, guys.
So me and Tyler tried to find some random questions, and we just want to kind of pop them out.
I can't get away from the pressure. I can't get away.
Yeah, and so we'll just ask you a few questions here.
All right.
And see if you can answer them.
Mm-hmm.
Stop peeking
Thanks.
at the page, trying to look at the answers. All right, why don't we go? I'll just start off here. We hear you're from Canada. You love hockey.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you this question. Not many people in Utah, I bet, could even answer this. I didn't know.
This is
I
so
had to
unfair,
go find
you
it.
guys. This is so unfair.
I didn't know this. All right, the last team to win the Stanley Cup Finals. We're going to start you off kind of easy.
Well, unfortunately, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning.
It was.
They beat my Calgary Flames in 7 games. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
was.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, you're a soccer fan.
Yes, I am as well.
Coach your girls' soccer team.
Coach a very good girls soccer team.
Okay,
Yeah.
Real Salt Lake.
Go Blue Crush.
Real Salt Lake, how many goals have they scored this season?
They have scored 3 and allowed 8.
All right.
-5 in goal differential. Worst in MLS.
Who has scored the 3 goals?
Cunningham scored the most recent one. Kreis on a header off a cross. And the only question is, was Kreis's goal the first of the year? I think it was. Kreis, Cunningham, and I'm missing the third.
Chris Klein.
Chris Klein. Got it.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's impressive to me.
2 out of 3 is
That-
not terrible.
Hey, that's more impressive.
Okay.
I couldn't have told you Real's played whatever amount of games this year. All right, next question. Brett Favre, his first completion in the NFL was to who?
An Atlanta Falcon. How's that?
No.
No, if his first completion in the NFL
Yep.
was not to a Falcon, it was an interception.
No.
You're kidding. I thought he said,
This is
wow, this is good. I won't get this then.
Okay.
Himself.
Himself.
No kidding.
Yeah. First
Batted up
pass.
like Like
Bat on the line.
John
Was he
Beck
not?
had
Was he
one of
not
those
playing
last
for the
year.
Falcons?
Oh,
He was playing for the Packers. I think he was on the
Really?
Packers.
Okay.
Yeah, batted down,
Okay.
caught it, and took off with the ball. So his first pass was actually
Okay.
completed himself.
I am going to research that. By the way. Not that I don't trust you. I'm going to research that. Okay.
All right. Real quick, a lot of our viewers.
I'm off the hot seat.
Yeah, you're off the
Okay,
hot seat.
all right.
A lot of our viewers are not necessarily sports fans, but broadcasting. Trying to get into broadcasting. Go ahead and explain how you went from student all the way up to Voice of the Cougars.
From Canadian geek to really, guys, by doing what you're doing. I mean, I knew in high school that I wanted to maybe do this for a living. I got involved in a lot of public speaking, things, drama, things that would get me out speaking in public, getting me used to crowds and things like that. And once I got to college, I just went right down to the college TV and radio station and said, put me on the air, basically. And luckily, they agreed to do that. And so by the time I got 2 or 3 years into BYU, I'd pretty much done everything you could do in terms of in front of the camera, behind the camera, radio, TV, and to the point where KSL hired me as took me in as an intern. And then after that, ended up hiring me while I was still in school at BYU. So I got to, I got into a situation where I didn't have to have the shock of having to go into the job market. When I graduated from school at BYU, I was already employed at KSL, and I've only had to work at KSL. It's kind of unique to be only at one station for your entire career, but it's a great station to be with. And of course, once you're in the door at KSL, that opens the door to the BYU product as well.
Right.
And so getting involved with BYU football and basketball was another big element to what I've been able to do there, and it's the best part of my job.
All right, well, we're probably going to let you go pretty quick, but one question I want to have, I want to know what the most exciting call you ever made in your career and the most disappointing.
Well, I'll tell you, the dunk we talked about was pretty fun this year, but I would have to say Luke Staley's touchdown run to win the Utah
definitely.
game back in Gary Croton's first year might stand out as maybe the most exciting call that I've had because of everything on the line at the time and how just sudden the burst down the sideline was and how loud the crowd was and just how excited our entire booth got. So I think that's probably the most exciting one. And disappointing, gosh, that's tough. The last Utah football game was disappointing, I thought. For BYU to get that close after coming back and not be able to finish it off. So top of mind, I guess that would be up there, pretty close, but disappointing. Yeah.
Tell you what, I was at that BYU football game when Luke Staley ran down the sideline. I found myself 4 rows down after that. I don't know how I got there, and I was hugging some person I didn't even know. It was that fun. I agree with you totally.
A quick funny story about that. It's a good thing that the glass in the press box at Edwards Stadium is thick because as I recall, as Luke began to run, I'm already standing, and he took off on the sideline. I clenched my fist, and as he gets in the end zone, I pump my fist, and it connects with the glass in front of me, and I skinned my knuckle pretty good. If it had been thinner glass, we could have been looking at a disaster. But luckily, it's nice and thick, and all I got was a nice bruised, bloody knuckle off the thing, but it was that exciting a play. I'll always remember that. You guys got to move along, but before we take off here, KSL put together a little gift pack for you. And with your indulgence, I want to share this with you.
Okay.
First of all, because the nights get chilly up here in this neck of the woods, so when you cover your football games this fall, you've each got a nice little fleece
Thank
vest
you.
to work with.
All right.
And after those cold nights, you can a little hot cocoa for you.
All
You
right.
can even have these on the set.
Well, yeah, we've been
definitely.
looking
We've
for
been
good
looking
mugs to
for
come
good
on
mugs.
the set. we just haven't
And
found
some
any.
nifty pens for you to really cross your T's with.
All right.
Okay, use those here on
Great,
set.
great.
And because nothing says, I'm humbled to have been your guest, like giving you my own bobblehead doll.
Awesome.
There you go.
Awesome.
Now the one flaw is they have too much hair. Okay, they were done off an old photo, I think, but you each get a prized Greg Wrubel bobblehead doll. There you go.
Well, that's just outstanding. Thank you very much. I know you have a big soccer game coming up.
Yeah,
this
big
week.
game Saturday.
Yeah, so
big game.
we just want to say good luck to
Thank
that,
you.
and then when the postseason's coming on, we also have something for you.
Right on.
Actually, it's not as much. I wish we could get as much. We got you. Of course, we love baseball, and we know you're a Lone Peak fan.
Hey,
actually,
they'll understand. They'll understand. No problem with this. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, and
appreciate
so
it.
we just want to give you a hat.
Hey,
so,
pleasure was mine.
Yeah, thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tyler,
Appreciate it very
thank
much.
you.
Yep.
All right.
You bet.
All right, when we go ahead and come back, we'll be talking about the NBA playoffs.